All right, so the global tech and startup space has been hit by a series of mass layoffs from tech giants to new startups. Many have laid off thousands of employees in the recent past. However, after months of layoffs, hiring trend seems to be improving in several roles and sectors. So, what's in store for freshers who are entering this job market nervously? What are the sectors and roles that are in key demand? Let's answer all of these questions with Nandita Gurjar, former HR head Infosys, and Jaideep Kewalramani, head of Employability Business and COO, TeamLease Edtech. Good evening and welcome to the show. So clearly, Nandita, what we really want to understand here is how exactly now, because 2 years into the pandemic, Nandita, if we just go back a bit, we saw that there were plethora of job opportunities. We saw people hopping jobs, taking multiple roles, but then now the situation of mass layoff, where most of the job portals we only get to read about is unfair layoffs and there are job appeals. But some good news amidst all of this is the picking up hiring trend. What kind of trend is this? Is this just a basic level of trend improvement because of so much of mass layoff happening? How do you read about this improved hiring trend that's been reported all over?
Thank you for having me on the show. I think to the freshers, firstly, these things happen. And of course, you can ask, why did it have to happen this year when I'm graduating? Fair question. But where the IT sector is concerned, this is very cyclic in nature. Every 5 years, you see a slowdown, and then hopefully there is a pickup, and a pickup, and how. I think the news of all the layoffs which is coming in sounds scary, and then the news of hiring of some sectors in some sectors sounds confusing. However, the fact of the matter is that organizations have, when there is a slowdown, organizations have a look at the skills which they have in abundance and the skills which they will continue to need more of. Depending on the kind of client projects which they are getting in, they will again have a look at the skills which are available inside, and what is it that we need to bring from outside. Therefore, while on one hand you will be hearing about the layoffs which happen in the organization, there will be a continuous hiring which is happening on the other side. So it sometimes seems as if both of them don't go hand in hand, but they do, because certain skills are the ones which get laid off, and certain skills are the one which there is a demand for, and therefore they will continue to keep hiring those.
All right, so that was your take and the kind of improvement or the way freshers should actually look at it. Jaideep, what's your view?
Thank you, Kavita. So there is always going to be rebalancing of talent within organizations. Mm-hmm. Most organizations that are growth-oriented will add talent in anticipation of business that's coming in. But there might be certain global headwinds that might want them to readjust that. By and large, our domestic growth story remains extremely strong. There are some global headwinds which one or two sectors are facing, but we are seeing a very strong demand for freshers. And we kind of recently released our career outlook report, where 62% of the employers have given a very positive indication for hiring freshers. And by and large, these demands are coming in from sectors like IT, telecom, BFSI, FMCG, digital-oriented businesses, and any consumer-facing business. Like ma'am also said, there will be these cycles that will happen, and freshers need to maintain a positive outlook. Maybe their hiring session would be delayed by a few weeks or readjusted, but by and large, there is plenty of demand. It might be delayed, but there is enough and more demand to kind of absorb all the talent that is coming off. They need to focus on making sure they have the right skills and acquire those skills during the waiting period so that they become relevant to the hiring companies.
Jaideep, if I can just ask more questions on the report that you just mentioned being released. When we talk about layoffs, so what kind of layoffs in terms of management levels are we talking about? Also, the hiring pattern that we are seeing, which in February in a lot of sectors we see is close to around 10%, especially IT sector if we talk about. Is this, can we call it a revival mode that is also, starting, which is at a very base level right now? And if you talk about hiring, is just only for freshers, where the hiring is actually taking off, or it is all across?
So, I mean, too early to call it a solid revival. Obviously, there are some global headwinds which Indian businesses want to be very cautious about. There is some softness in the market at certain levels, but like we said, we are seeing a very solid demand for freshers at least. As that firms up, obviously the organization pyramid would want to be strong, and the demand for mid and top management should also come back. To your other question, in terms of the kind of timelines that we are looking at, this could be anywhere from 1 to next 3 quarters, given how certain events are shaping up. Like obviously last week, everyone was spooked because of the banking crisis in the US, which seems to have kind of managed for now. Once those fears kind of go away, I don't think organizations have any reason to hold back their hiring.
Nandita, do you think this hiring is also happening in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 towns, or it is just an urban phenomena right now?
I think it will get higher depending on where the companies have those projects. And also depending on where the skills are. I think one of the good things of the pandemic, the message which has gone to organizations is that people are very happy staying in the B towns, and not everyone wants to live in the city. So therefore, growth in these places is something which they should invest in and look for. I think when the organizations plan for the manpower or whatever woman power, I think it's critical for them to also take that into account in saying that where do these skills want to be based, and therefore make sure that they are put in centers which are close by.
So, Nandita, again, now since we are guiding freshers as to how they should approach this job market, what about the package expectation? Should that be very moderate or low expectation, considering the kind of mass layoffs that they've been reading, and there is nervousness, obviously? Should they be actually going up and demanding a particular package? How should they go about it? What should be the strategy?
So freshers who come straight out of college typically have a standard salary which is given in the IT industry. I don't think that's changed for many years now. And I don't think that they hire them individually. A large part of them come, as groups from colleges. Then is the second kind of hiring, which is freshers who go to different organizations and then, pitch for their resume and for their hiring. So I think in both places, it's very important for freshers, and this is the message to them, is not to worry about the money part of it right now. It's very, very important that you start working, because when the tide changes and the job market opens up again, what is going to come into prominence is the skills that you developed. And therefore, I think though investing in making sure that you got your job quickly and you started working is very, very critical. A lot of freshers look at their careers in a fashion which says, I want to join an IT industry, I want to work there for 3 years, and then, I want to work in another company, and, so on. I think we need to really ask ourselves the question right now in saying, I should pick up the job which sounds good, which is there right now, regardless of the sector. While the IT sector is talking about layoffs, and this is a very important part, the ones which are hiring freshers are different industry. I think the message today is that every industry has become a tech industry. Retail, defense, high tech, you name it, banks, everyone wants to hire freshers, and everyone has a technical stream in their organizations. Therefore, you don't necessarily have to start your career in a software company. You can start your career in any industry. Pick up those skills. The key point here is to start picking up those skills and gain the experience.
Stop you over here because we are getting this breaking news that IT major Accenture is set to cut 2.5% workforce. It would lead to 19,000 job losses globally. The company has also lowered revenue growth forecast to 8 to 10%. So this is the mass layoffs that we're just talking about. There's one more name, and that is one of the IT major, Accenture, and they are set to cut almost 2.5% of their workforce, and this actually translates into 19,000 job losses globally. And obviously, because of this pressure, the revenue growth forecast has also been lowered down to 8.10%. So let's just analyze this further. Jaideep, I'll come to you now. This was, would you say this was expected, or if it was expected, look at the magnitude, 2.5%.
So, Kavita, yes, 2.5% and 19,000 jobs seems like a lot, but I'd like to add a perspective. The natural attrition any organization goes through is somewhere around the same percentage points. And also, there will be an opportunity for organizations to look at underperforming talent and let go of them. So while 19,000 seems like a huge number, if you put things into context of the attrition that the organization faces and how they want to rebalance their performers versus non-performers, it is not a really big worrisome number. Of course, if this goes beyond and they have to recast the numbers, then one might want to say it is a little worrisome. So we wouldn't want to call all the red flags out right now.
Your take?
I also think that, when you look at these numbers, he makes a very important point that attrition usually is of a larger number. However, that is from the company perspective. From the people who are getting laid off, if you really look at it, it's mid-managers and senior managers. And since our discussion is on freshers, I don't see a lot of fresher layoff which is going to happen. I mean, it doesn't give you a cost benefit to let go freshers. Plus, you will need them, in a matter of 18 months. So again, hiring them, it becomes more expensive. Having said that, I think what freshers should do is really look at the skills which are the most important ones which organizations will go for. So whether it's digital, data analytics, cybersecurity, develop skills on that. Today, you have access to so much of training modules which are available online. I think it's very important for everyone to take the career in their own hands rather than to depend on organizations to make it for them, and to find out what are the skills which are going in the market and get yourselves trained on that, get yourself certified on that, work on projects on the side, which will sort of brand your skills even further.
In fact, you're right. The kind of skills you've mentioned, the kind of numbers in terms of hiring for those skills, it's actually more than 20-25% in just last 1 month. But then coming back to this layoff news from Accenture, Jaideep, you mentioned rebalancing the talent. Now, how exactly are IT firms also trying to let go of talent pool which is not so great and trying to work out a balancing structure in this environment which is full of chaos right now?
So first of all, obviously, it's very difficult for anyone who gets laid off to kind of handle the news and prepare for the transition period from the current organization to finding an opportunity, because you never plan for such things. That happens, and then you kind of get into the activity part of it. But organizations, when they look at letting go of talent, they usually look at opportunities to let go of non-performing talent, or opportunities where they might have had excess staffing. They try and rebalance that within the organization itself, because there are some pockets which have open positions and some pockets where there is excess talent. This process is called internal job posting within a lot of organizations, and they may use this opportunity to move talent around. A lot of organizations also lay emphasis on fungibility of the talent pool. There are certain basic skill sets that every talent possesses, and that could be a good base for them to assess whether the talent is fungible across different processes, across different businesses. Geography, talent mobility, and cost of talent become some limiting factors. While there might be a demand within certain groups within the organization, they may not necessarily have the budget or the positions within the right geography. There are multiple factors that kind of kick in when you're looking at rebalancing. But by and large, it's a process that most organizations that have a scaled talent pool have mastered it since the great 2008 global financial crisis. They know how to kind of run these processes.
Nandita, what about the hiring trend or tips for freshers who are from the non-IT or technical backgrounds? What has been the trend over there, and over here also, what kind of specific upskilling, if one needs to do, and freshers also, for that matter, if they really want to add on to some kind of a skill, what should be the road ahead?
As I mentioned earlier, I think today you have access to the virtual training curriculum. It covers almost anything and everything. So I think it's very important that the freshers look at where they want to build their careers, what are the market possibilities, and where is the job hiring happening, and therefore equip themselves with these skills. A lot of self-learning and a lot of initiative and motivation to do that is really required and the need of the hour. One of the other points which sometimes gets missed in all this technical knowledge part is that your interview finally decides whether you get into an organization and get a job, right? So therefore, making sure that you have the communication skills, the ability to communicate, what skills you possess, what your strengths are, how you will add value into the organization. This is very, very important. And I think so a lot of times techies have a tendency to completely blindside that aspect. But the final job is based on how you have managed to communicate what you do and what you have and what you can contribute, right? And therefore, I think a lot of attention needs to be put along with technical skills on the softer skills.
Taking this point ahead, because when you talk about softer skill communication, cognitive flexibility, emotional intelligence, this plays a very important role. And not only for freshers, Jaideep, this should be even for people who are from the mid-management level, or maybe even those who have laid off and maybe want to start their second inning in a different way, in a fresher environment. What do you say?
No, Kavita, you're absolutely right. And I think Nandita ma'am also captured it. For mid and seniors, what is also more important is their ability to reinvent themselves. Lifelong learning is a great skill. One must not shy away from acquiring new certificates, courses, or even sign up for higher degrees when they are faced with such kind of situation. It gives a very positive signal out to your next employer that you are willing to invest in yourself and willing to reinvent yourself. Decision making, data analytics are also additional skill sets that one must kind of continuously hone, because at mid and senior management, you are faced with challenges where you need to give direction to the teams under you. And having skills that allow you to manage data, interpret the data, and arrive at decisions, or at least produce alternatives for the leadership is a great skill to have.
All right. I'll just take one more question from both of you. I know you've already given a lot of tips to our freshers, but then just in the end, one quick pro tip. Nandita.
They may hate me for this, but I think my core tip is don't worry about the money when you're entering into your career. I think the money will follow. Focus on your competence, focus on building skills, and make sure that you're joining a value-based organization, one which appreciates learning and learnability, and then you will get much more out of it than money.
Jaideep, how can one prepare for their first ever interview?
The first ever interview is always the best, and it's always memorable. Try and get help from people within your network, talk to your coaches. You obviously have family members or mentors who can help you prepare. Go with the top 5 questions. More importantly, why do you want this job or what makes you suitable for this job is a question that one must be ready for.
All right, so job seekers and employees have gone through multiple highs and lows in their professional life so far, but then the kind of tips and skills we've discussed, it's something that you should actually follow and imbibe to, so that you can not only have a successful professional career, but then also know how to grow in what directions you want to. Thank you so much for being on the show and helping our viewers with that. On that note, let's take a quick break and then we'll talk about gold and should you be investing more in gold and what is going to be the way ahead. All of this after this break.